The date of the 2016 Australian federal election is rapidly approaching us, much like a freight train with a narcoleptic driver. In this crazy world of uninformed pundits and highly trained spin surgeons, the populace cries out for a champion. A sigh on a constitutional wisdom so profound that it makes our system of democracy look like a fantasy Duplo set constructed by a specially trained gibbon. Who, they cry, who will tell us what to think, and feel, and love, and live? Who do you think, you ding-dongs? It's in the title. I swear, some people. Now I, unfortunately, was unable to vote in the last federal election due to a bit of a legal kerfuffle involving bulk fertiliser shipments and the circulation of this photo. Hopefully, both the federal police and I can laugh about that one in hindsight. Despite this lack of experience, I'm obviously the most eminently capable individual to cover this election due to the severe intellectual feebleness of all other media outlets. Newspapers, televisions, blogs, bah! Nothing but strains of fecal coliform on the intestines of public consciousness. Riddled as they are by the journalistic diseases of blatant opinion pieces and unfounded moralising, how could they ever teach you anything of merit? But I, on the other hand, have neither opinions nor morals, as I find both tend to get in the way of a good time. So let's tear this politics ship wide open like a virgin elephant's hymen during musk. Politics, coming from a Greek root meaning bad opinions for the uninformed and unhygienic, is a system by which large groups of people resolve to make everyone else in the group unhappy. An ancestor to our modern democracy was created in Athens around 500 BC, when one night they couldn't decide between Chinese and Indian takeout, and the previous method of rock, parchment and shears just wasn't cutting it anymore. This early system morphed into our modern bicameral parliament, which came to us by way of Britain, much like scabies, and that guilty feeling you get around brown people. Opening in Melbourne in 1901, the Commonwealth Parliament launched array reviews, and soon, serving in office was seen as a fun new alternative to the pastimes of the day, such as cricket or competitive sodomy. All in all, not much has changed about the Commonwealth Parliament in those 115 years, except the meeting place has changed location, and the spirit of competitive sodomy has been ruined by corporate sponsorships. Now obviously you're not informed about politics, because you spend your time gorging yourself in the kind of debauched pornography made only in economically desperate Eastern European nations, or sarcastically liking photos of your ex with their new, more attractive partner. But this is the year, you say. This is the year I become a participant in democracy. Now you have to bear witness to the terrifying spectacle that is news media during an election. You flick over from your regularly scheduled viewing of surprise renovation pablum to Late Line or some shit, where they unearth some human potato hybrid who you've never seen before and will never see again, and who despite his horrific blandness will manage to retain his seat in Who Cares Shire for eons, like a pasty fat smorg sitting on his hoard of insipid constituents. Obviously, Tuba Boy can't answer any questions on our official party doctrine, or his political backers will dice up and fry his head to serve as a seafood accompaniment. So he just blankly sits there, listening to the question, before launching into an answer for an entirely different question that no one ever asked and no one could possibly ever care about. Now you're looking at the moderator like, buddy, it doesn't matter if you're pitching hot fire straight to the catcher's mitt, if the batter's in another postcode playing fucking T-ball. Now you're riled up to vote in the election, not out of any particular party preference, but at the very least to stop any more of these disgusting toadmen from getting into office. But your newfound sense of civic responsibility will be immediately waylaid when you realise that your austere lifestyle of binge-watching Netflix and eating an entire family pizza by yourself will be interrupted by having to queue all day to vote. Why should you have to spend ages queuing up to do something you don't want to do? It's like waiting in the dentist's office. Why should I wait around just to pay for the pleasure of having some sociopath whose dream of being a doctor was overruled by his dream of owning a Ferrari drug me and then fiddle around in my mouth? That is, of course, until you learn this helpful tip, that they'll eventually bump up your appointment if you start wandering around their office while messing with their tools. Similarly, our electoral system has its own life hack, if you will, early voting. You turn up to the ballots a week early, and there's still a line because every Tom, Dick and Harry's got the same brilliant idea as you. You get to the front of the line, and you start getting hassled by this woman who's all like, "What reason do you have for voting early?" And civil society dictates you can't just tell this woman to fuck off, so you come up with a shitty excuse. "I'm going to be sick on Saturday." But this lady, this Sherlock Holmes in a sweater, she doesn't let up with the interrogation. "How do you know you're going to be sick a week in advance?" So you grab this woman by a collar and glare into her eyes. And you say, "Look, you better let me into that ballot box. Or I'm going to go to a public bathroom and have a lucky dip in the sharp spin, and then we'll see who's fucking sick. Do I make myself clear?" Finally, you're let into the voting area. And you're even less informed about politics than you were to begin with, because you had to give yourself an amateur lobotomy to stop the nightmares in Mr. Potato Man's grimacing hobgoblin face. Instead of looking at it in any sort of nuanced, philosophical way, just pick which of the two leaders you think is superficially the most prime ministerial looking. This is surprisingly more difficult than you would think, because they are so physically interchangeable, down to their identical heights and receding hairlines. I guess based on their fashion sense? Now you're looking at these budget suit store mannequins come to life, and you're wondering why they don't have the sartorial panache of a Joseph Stalin or a Chairman Mao. Fascist military dictators. They may commit war crimes, but they certainly don't commit fashion crimes. In the end, just donkey vote that shit, because every minute in that booth is another honey that ain't getting their body wrapped. And also there are video games to play and crafts to craft, and there's a litter of cats to feed. And oh my god, you're so alone. That's it, you're so alone. You second person to masturbate. The Australian Senate is just like the institution depicted in the Star Wars prequels, except instead of a colourful menagerie of all sorts of alien races, it's just 76 Palpatines sticking around in a room decorated by someone's colourblind grandmother. The idea that you're going to remember the name and policies of 1, let alone 12, of these busters is laughable, so just rank them by how funny you find their names. So now you've done it. You've done the bare minimum to avoid the government shipping you off to Nauru with the other undesirables. But in the end, your vote doesn't even matter, because you live in an electorate so safe that the curbs are made of Toblerone. Just take comfort in the fact that you're a speck of dust on a tiny rock floating in the vast expanse of the cosmos, and even the other specks of dust don't give a shit what you think. Did I say take comfort? I meant be filled with existential dread. Now you can fall back on the only kind of political representation that actually works: sending politicians threatening tweets.